All right, so we're now at the end of Omen season, and today we're going to talk about Omen IV, The Awakening. 1991 TV movie. This was a failed attempt to revitalize a franchise that had been dormant for a decade. Omen 3 was the last one in 1981. A lot of people know that there was a plan, there was a script to do Omen 4 around 1983, 84. I think it was maybe 84. Had to do with the 84 election. Don't know much about it other than that, and that there was a different director, producer who got wrapped up with another project, and so that Omen 4 got abandoned. Talk about a huge shame for the fans of this franchise. So in 1991, this is kind of around the time when some other horror franchises were on their last legs, like A Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th and Halloween. They were trying to reinvigorate, pump some final blood into the carcasses of those franchises, and they tried this with The Omen. This one came out in May of 1991 on Fox, and then it got a theatrical release in some countries. Like, I know Australia got it. I wonder if NZ Princess saw it when it came out. I don't know what other countries. And then I think in October of that year, it got a theatrical release in the United Kingdom. But anyway, so this comes off the heel. We talked about Omen 3 last Saturday, and this comes off the heels of I've watched four consecutive kind of Omen ripoffs leading up to tonight, which is most likely going to be the Omen 4 viewing. The Godsend, 1980, which it's a low-budget English film. What's her name? Angela Pleasance, daughter of Donald Pleasance. And I rented this from the video store years ago. It's not great, but it's got a pretty original script to it, and has the little girl in it's really good. She's got a good creepy look, real whitish blonde hair and scary looking eyes. So it's a good film if you're looking for it's probably my favorite Omen ripoff because there's not many of them. Village of the Damned, 1960. This is a great movie. I watched it and paid much better attention to it than the first time I saw it. This is an excellent film. Of course, it was remade in 1990. I haven't seen that one, but so The Godsend, 1980, a British film, and then Village of the Damned, 1960, another British film. After that was Devil Witch Child, 1975, which is a big disappointment. It's more of an Exorcist. It's like a Spanish Exorcist ripoff. The director from Spain, as were all the actors. And then last night's featured presentation was Bloody Sect, and then it has a Spanish title. I forget, but Secto something. But from 1982. And that one, I could only find the version where they're speaking in Spanish. I couldn't even find subtitles. And it's got if you like gore and some nudity and stuff like that, it's got a lot of that, but not the best film. But so how about Omen 4? So when you rank these movies, and I mentioned this last Saturday, as of right now, my favorite is Omen 2, Omen 1, Omen 3, and then Omen 4. After watching Omen 3 last week, I dislike it even more. I have a lot of problems with that movie. It becomes less of an enjoyable watch, but Omen 4, my viewing experiences on this have ranged from boredom to kind of enjoying it a little bit, to trying to enjoy it more than I should, and kind of watching it with kind of an emotion emotional attachment thing, like not wanting the series to end. Okay, I'm going to really pay attention to it on this year's viewing to really see, just kind of figure out how much I really like it. Omen 2 will never jump over Omen 1 as my favorite, but Omen 4 could possibly jump over Omen 3. It could even jump over it tonight. Does it have kind of a Jason X feel to it as far as where it ranks in enjoyment in a franchise? I think it's closer to like Jason Takes Manhattan, because it's a bad film, but pacing is not bad, and it's just kind of it has kind of a mac and cheese kind of comfort food kind of viewing to it. So it's kind of like the Pro Bowl of the Omen. It's kind of like when I was really into the NFL, I didn't want it to end, and then I'd watch the Pro Bowl, which would come after the Super Bowl, knowing it was going to be bad, but it was like clinging to the football season. And I think Omen 4 has some similarities in viewing that, because a lot of people don't consider it part of the canon, like they don't count it. I do. Just because it's bad doesn't mean it shouldn't count. At least it's not like they completely dismiss the storyline. There's some plot holes with it, but at least they try to do something to kind of keep it going. They don't disrespect the franchise. I don't think. Some people might argue that it does, but the cast, Faye Grant is our lead actress. She has kind of an interesting story. Ran away from home at the age of 18 to like Mexico and stuff. She's best known for being in the V miniseries. I'm not familiar with that, but it was written by miniseries was written by Brian Taggart. I think it's Taggart or Taggart. He is a co-writer of Omen 4, so there's a connection there. He brought her over for this. And then Harvey Bernard, who was the producer of Omen 1, Omen 2, and Omen 3, he's back, and he's like a co-writer. I don't know how much he did. He's a co-writer of Omen 4, maybe a co-producer. I forget, but Harvey Bernard, who acted actually in part 1 and 3 of the Omen, as uncredited, but he's more of like an Alfred Hitchcock type of showing up, kind of like I think he was man walking across the street in 1, or had something to do with a diplomat maybe in 3, but you really have to keep your eyes open to spot him in those movies. He was not in Omen 2, and he does not appear in Omen 4, as far as we know. Maybe one day someone will see him and credit him on IMDb. Faye Grant, also a.k.a. Sexy Faya, as Dewey has called her for years. No relation to Lee Grant, the lead actress from Omen 2, but it's cool having a Grant in this to kind of makes you think back to Omen 2. Faye Grant is one of the better actresses in this film. She gives a lot of believability to the film, I think, and her concerns and kind of freaking out some and all that. I think she's really good in this. Michael Woods is her husband is it, forget his first name, York. Okay, so it's the York family. So Michael Woods, who is this guy, and this guy was in, before Omen 4, he was in a very little known and short-lived miniseries called Private Eye. I don't know what channel this is on, but it lasted from like the fall of '87 to the beginning of 1988. I think it was just canceled, but it had Josh Brolin in it. It had William Sadler. Remember him from Shawshank? It had him from, don't matter what his name is, he's dead now. That William Sadler. Noble Winningham, you've probably seen a lot of movies. Peter Gallagher from Sex, Lies, and Videotape and The O.C. It had a couple other kind of names you might recognize, but Private Eye, I've never even heard of it. It's about a 50s cop, but it bombed. So, and then after that, he was in a movie called Lady Beware. It's like a suspense thriller movie with Diane Lane in 1987. He was the lead actor there. So Michael Woods had a little window there in that 87, 88 period. Good-looking actor, young guy, had a little chance there to shine and possibly even be a star, as some actors did back then. Kind of had a little chance there, but it never happened for him. I think he wound up in As the World Turns or something in the late 90s, but he's a fairly dull actor, at least in this. I haven't seen him in anything else. He's very naive he's a politician, but he's just he's always taken up for the daughter, who's Damien's daughter, and everything's fine with her. So he's just kind of there. He's not one of the highlight people, but they're a convincing couple, I'll say. So, and he's a convincing up and coming politician in this movie. Asia Vieira plays Delia, a Canadian actress, and a lot of people have raved about her in this film, even if they don't like the film. She's very good in this movie. She was in some TV shows like Magic School Bus and Goosebumps. I forget what else. Are You Afraid of the Dark? I think she was in that. She was in the 1988 film The Good Mother with Diane Keaton. I was about to say Diane Lane, but Diane Keaton, Liam Neeson, what's his name? Jason Robards is in this. This is one of Teresa Wright's later movies, a 40s, 50s actress. I'm leaving out someone. I know Katie Seagal, who was Peg Bundy, is also in this, but Asia Vieira is the daughter in this and one of the main characters. I'd like to see this movie, a romance drama kind of thing, and she was only 6 years old in The Good Mother, and there's a real cute story about this because this movie was directed by Leonard Nimoy, Darth. So Leonard Nimoy directed The Good Mother, and during the filming of this, Asia Vieira developed a real affection for him. And during the filming of it, she watched Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. And remember, she's only 6 years old. She saw this movie where he dies, if you're familiar with it, where Spock dies in the movie, and she thought that Leonard Nimoy had actually died when she watched the movie, and she took it really, really hard. And then when she showed up on the set, the next day, and saw him there, she ran up to him and gave him a hug. So it's kind of a funny story. Leonard Nimoy directed that one. So, and Asia Vieira is in the movie poster, also with Diane Keaton of that one. So that's one I'd like to check out. Other than that, she didn't do a whole lot, but I really like her character in this. And there's actually 4 actresses who play Delia. So one is Asia Vieira, and then there's 3 more they have playing in short sequences, short little, almost like camera flashes, but small scenes. There's one who plays Delia at 1.5 years old, one who plays Delia at 2 years old, and another who plays Delia at 3 years old. The one at 3 years old does get a little screen time. I'll talk about that. I will talk about that a little bit later in this review, but it's kind of weird to have 4 different people. I think they had at least 2 that played Damien in the first Omen, because there's some shots of him when he's much younger, and the scene at the lake where they thought he fell in the lake. So a little tag back to that. There's a lot of actors in this movie and actresses that are, despite this being a TV movie and there's not household names, there's some pretty solid people who have a lot of experience, like the guy who plays Dr. Hastings, Madison Mason. He's in with Delia and the evil, and I like this guy. He's really good in the film. He was in Dreamscape. He was he offers one of my favorite lines in the movie towards the end when she, before she stabs him, "Who is Damien Thorne?" And that's when you really get, the, erection. But that's when you really get a, kind of like, wow, this is great. They're giving some, they're giving a call back to Damien. Damien is the whole, Karen. He's gonna make it all. He's gonna make everything great. He's all in. Awesome. I love that guy. Don S. Davis is another good veteran actor. May he rest in peace. Most of these actors are still alive in this. There's a couple that are dead. One of them is Don S. Davis. Plays Jake Madison, and he was in. He showed up in a lot of different films. You might remember him as as an opposing coach for one of the teams in A League of Their Own. But he's a guy you've probably seen maybe some TV shows, like Stargate type TV shows. But I really like Don S. Davis as Jake Madison, and he's revealed to be kind of also on the inside, kind of working with the Antichrist stuff. I wanted to see a little bit more of him, of Jake Madison, and they kind of after it's revealed by the private detective, who he is, they kind of, you never see what happens to him, or he doesn't show up at the end or anything. But I thought he was really good, had some potential. So a couple of characters that I did not like at all was Anne Hearn, who played Jo, the nanny. I did not like this at all. I thought that she was her demeanor and her face was, I didn't like. But the whole mystic stuff was, the angle of using her as a person who was into like the healing lights and astrology and little things like that, and the astrology fair, and how Delia reacted just combatively to all this. I thought was not effective at all. They were trying to go in the opposite direction of what they did in Omen 1, how the nanny was, all in with Damien, and then here she's trying to be, the on the good side. But all throughout Scripture, all the stuff with like, mystical and palm reading and all this kind of astrology stuff is completely wrong. Like, it's like in the Old Testament and New Testament, it's like this is seen as like bad, and it's a diversion from like what God wants, and it's like an alternative to like following His ways. But so if anything, you would think that no matter how good it seems, even Jo says this to Mrs. York, Delia's mother, like this is not strange. It's all very positive. But like in reality, this is like the devil is on board with this kind of stuff. So it's like if nothing else, like Delia would like this, because it's like it's more kind of in line with Satan distracting people. Doesn't really work for me. I always thought something felt weird about that, and that's kind of what it is. Not to get all theological, but just a negative about the film. And then her boyfriend, the nanny's boyfriend or whatever he is, friend. Noah, played by Jim Burns. Man, this guy's even worse. Pained and labored. Did not like him at all. So those two were no-nos. I like the second nanny who turned out to be evil. Miss Rosselli, played by Andrea Mann. She was in like Look Who's Talking. She was in with Don S. Davis, by the way. She was in also in Look Who's Talking. There was a third actress from Omen IV in that movie, Brenda Critchlow, who was kind of like at the beginning little, I think, birthday party. But Andrea Mann was also in Death Wish 5. But she had a real good evil look to her. I thought they should have made her if not the main nanny, then give her more time on screen. Okay, also like Megan Leach, who played Sister Yvonne, who then later called herself Felicity when she left being a nun, and she was really good. I really liked her, especially as Felicity. It was in like the I guess like a Pentecostal church thing with a snake. She's good there. The hospital dying scene is a little campy, but it's still one of the scariest scenes in the film. So Duncan Fraser, another guy I liked a lot, who played Father Matson. This guy he's the type who played, I kind of looked him up, played like he had roles like sergeants and generals and doctors, mayors, prime ministers, captains, those kind of roles. And he's a father, he's a priest here who gets some good chunks of screen time, and he gets a lot of dialogue too, and really does well with it. I really like Duncan Fraser in this film. Martin, this is the one. I'll talk about Michael Lerner first. So Michael Lerner, the other guy who passed away April 8th, 2023. I did a whole video on him like the day after he died, and this is going to be the kind of an emotional time watching Michael Lerner for the first time since his death, and watching him in Omen IV. He's best known for he's probably the best known actor in this film. He was Barton Fink, Harlem Nights, 8 Men Out, a bunch of other things. He could have been in Goodfellas, and he would have slid very well into that film, even as a minor character. If you saw him in Harlem Nights, you know what I'm talking about. But he has the best screen presence and the movie picks up. If it's dragging at any point, it picks up the moment that Mrs. York goes to Michael Lerner to research about what's going on with her daughter. And he is, from start to finish to where he dies, is excellent. Except for when he's about to get killed and he gives the look at the wrecking ball. That's pretty bad. But I love every scene he's in this movie. He really helps pick up this film and kind of get your interest back, stealing the peanuts out of the little guy's shop, the Asian guy, when he's saying, "Have you seen this girl?" and talking to the pimp. I like that. And I love another scene I love with him is with the bartender. I don't know the actor's name, but when he goes in to get a beer and he pays him off for information, and their dialogue together, it's great chemistry. Oh, it's great. I love it. But the other actor in here that is the real wild card is Martin Cummins, and so he is credited as the Drifter. This is in the scene with the 3-year-old version of Delia, who is played by Brienne Harrett, and she has a couple of little lines. She's playing peekaboo with her mother. I think her only lines are like peekaboo, maybe, and they're a little hide and seek game in a kind of a park. She runs down and almost gets hit by a tractor trailer, but they bring back the dog, like in Omen 1, and the dog saves her life, and the Drifter. And I'm always confused about this. Does the dog belong to the Drifter, or is it's just weird because he runs up and like maybe thinking the dog attacked her. "What have you done?" I think is his one line. "What have you done?" But that guy is Martin Cummins, and he is known in the Friday the 13th universe. He was in that, remember, as the guy who the kind of dorky guy who films the teacher, with the blonde, and he's kind of wants to get with the blonde girl, but Wayne is his name. "Wayne, you're an a-hole." Drinks the wine. I really had a crush on really the hots for you since 10th grade. "Oh, that's really sweet, Wayne." That's Martin Cummins. I like the connection of having Jason Takes Manhattan actor in this movie. I always kind of enjoy his little 4-second time on screen. Martin Cummins, and then Ryder plays the dog. Now that's a weird thing. So the actor dog is named Ryder. Now, I think it may have been in one more film, but it's credited as the actor name being Ryder, and then the character name is just Dog. That's a little weird because I think they refer to it as Ryder in the film, so it should be Ryder plays Ryder. Should be, if that's the real name in real life. But rest in peace, Ryder. I'm sure he's long gone by now. But some of the dislikes, I've already mentioned problems I have with it. Really, I talked about the mystical stuff. That's a different angle that other people haven't talked about. But in general, just the TV movie thing where you've got, of course, the deaths are going to be bad. I mean, the goofy deaths, especially like the beheading thing they tried to do that doesn't show anything, and they're all going to be weak. And then the Delia scaring the boy when he's on the ladder, making him pee, like that's the best the Antichrist daughter can come up with. I mean, it's just weak stuff like that. But the soundtrack gets in the way. It feels completely unnecessary. It's credited to Jerry Goldsmith's, but it's not new stuff. It's stuff taken from Omen 1 and Omen 3. I always feel that a little disrespectful. Why couldn't you get a little from the best one, Omen 2? Come on, get a little there and slide it in. But the soundtrack is completely, it's just out of place in this movie. The inverted crosses overuse. The zombie choir, of course, that's terrible. The scene is great leading up to that. The Michael Lerner looking at the manger scene and it's turning black, and I always think about that around Christmas time. The faces turn black. It's like, that's good. But Karen's meeting with the priest Duncan Fraser, Father Mattson, played by Duncan Fraser. I really like those scenes discussing like theology and biblical stuff and possibilities of who the Antichrist could be, where, and all that stuff. I really like those scenes, especially the last one where he's on the phone and it says, "Oh, no, wait," and she's has the little manila envelope that Michael Lerner, who is now dead, sent to her with all the information about Damien and Delia, etc. And she's sitting outside the office with the manila envelope, and her great acting when she realizes what is going on. Great scene there. It's a great callback to Omen 2 when Nicholas Pryor gets the stuff from Bugenhagen from the ruins and goes into his office and he's finding out everything. So I like that callback to Omen 2, baby. The ending is, look, it's bad. It's not, I know it's like they tried too hard with the other baby and the strange embryo thing that the doctor explains. It's not as bad as Omen 3, though. At least they tried to make something. At least they tried, something different. And it is for a TV movie. It does have a pretty shocking, where she takes the gun. It's a pretty shocking ending, and then the callback to Omen 1 at the end with Mr. York and Delia, standing graveside like in Omen 1 with Delia. Is great too. Bringing it back to having a kid being on the Antichrist side, I think is good, especially with the performance of Asia Vieira. But it became like when you have the adult Damien. I mean, in the first one, it's all this, he's the Antichrist, but is he really? Should we kill him? And there's that tension. And then in Damien, in Omen 2, there's the tension within Damien himself with, who am I? And then figuring out who he is and struggling with it. And then, still having the parents there and they're struggling with what to do, especially William Holden. So you have that. But when you get to Omen 3, Damien, he's 32 and he's indestructible. And I didn't like that. There was hardly any resistance. He can just make people die without even being there at any time, and he's all like smug and cocky about it, and it just kind of loses some of its some of that tension. But bringing it back to a kid in Omen 4 is one of the best parts. One of the best parts of it, and having the parents. I know it's repetitive and it's done again, but you know, it is different to have. I think she's 8 in this movie. They mention it. Yeah, I think they mention it in the after she falls off the horse. I believe 8, 9 at the oldest, but I think, yeah, she was like 8 or 9 in this, and they mention it there in the doctor's office. But it's an unexplored age, because we had him at, you know, 6, and then you had him. There's a big difference, guys. And then, like, you know, 13 when in Omen 2. But that kind of that other period we haven't seen before, so that's kind of cool. Never saw like the 20s, but and then just the emotional ending of this movie. There's always kind of this thing, like watching the credits and they're leaving the cemetery. There's the inverted cross once again, but this is kind of emotional, because you know that Omen season is over. It's in the books, and it kind of goes by quickly. Usually you try to do it within a month, and today is March the 2nd. I talked about last week how the Omen 3, like the events of killing the babies, took place on March 23rd, and it does have that kind of early spring, even kind of fall feeling to it. Omen 4 goes back to winter. It has a real winter feel to it, so you do want to kind of get it in. It's good to get it in like late February, maybe early March, but definitely before the daylight savings time. You see a lot of this. You see a lot of scenes with snow, like, still on the ground. It looks like kind of old snow it was there. That's kind of, you know, it's kind of residual, but it has that real late February snow type of feel to it. So that's Omen 4, The Awakening, 1991, and that's kind of my thoughts on it. Maybe next year I'll do a full review of like the first 3 and talk about everything from there. But you know, the Omen season, boys, it is now coming to an end. Most likely tonight's featured presentation. You have no excuses to not be able to name like at least 4 actors if I ask in trivia tomorrow night. All right, guys. All right, just remember, Damien is the whole Karen, the whole Damien. Long live Damien effing Thorne, boys.